The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everybody and welcome to today's webinar, An Introduction to T-Levels, presented by Sue Lovelock. Today's webinar is going to be recorded and will be made available to everybody a little later today, along with any supporting materials that we might send over. If anybody has any questions throughout the webinar, just send them over to me on the questions taskbar, which is on the sidebar that should have popped up, and I'll read them out in a short question and answer session at the end. So now I will pass over to Sue Lovelock.
Hello, it's really nice to join you all on this webinar. Hope everybody's well. I'm Sue Lovelock. I'm the Deputy Director in the Department for Education responsible for T-level delivery. And I'm going to aim to talk you through some slides, probably about 20 minutes or so, 25 minutes perhaps, to give you an overview of what a T-level is, why they're being introduced, when they're coming, so to give you that high-level overview and introduction to T-levels. So moving on to the second slide, I wanted to set out a bit of the background to where the thinking around T-levels has come from. The Independent Panel on Technical Education, which was chaired by Lord Sainsbury back in 2015, is very much the underpinning thinking and architecture for the introduction of T-levels. The panel were tasked by ministers in advising on actions to improve the quality of technical education in England, and they set out in their report a compelling case for change. In particular, they highlighted the confusing range of thousands and thousands of qualifications currently available to young people, as well as issues with the quality of some of those qualifications, which had increasingly become out of date, and issues with currency and whether employers were finding young people coming out with the skills that they needed to move successfully into the workplace. The panel looked extensively at evidence in England, but also internationally, and did a lot of exploring what the best practice internationally is and what we can learn from that to improve technical education in England. The panel recommended a comprehensive package of reforms. There were 35 recommendations in total, including the development of a new flagship technical education programme, which would become known as the T-level. They also recommended the development of 15 routes across the classroom-based and apprenticeship-based routes to skills training. And they also recommended a radical streamlining of the existing technical qualifications landscape, which I can say a bit more about later on. Government accepted all of those recommendations in the 2016 skills plan and subsequently committed to delivering the first T-levels from September 2020. So what is a T-level? A T-level will be a 2-year level 3 technical education course, and they will be starting in September 2020. They are aimed at following GCSEs, so for 16 to 18-year-olds, and they are roughly the same size as a 3 A-level programme, so they are substantial courses, 900 hours per year. T-levels have been developed in collaboration with employers and businesses so that the content meets the needs of industry and helps prepare young people for work. T-levels are primarily classroom-based courses, so 80% of the time will be in a college or other provider, with a substantial industry placement of around 3 months embedded as part of their programme. The aim is to provide young people with the knowledge and experience to help them move successfully into skilled employment, further study, or higher education or higher apprenticeship. So we're very aware that in the introduction of T-levels, this isn't the first time that government has attempted to reform technical education. One of the things we've done in preparing this programme of work and preparing to implement T-levels is to look at what lessons can be learned from previous attempts at technical education and vocational education reform. T-levels are different. from previous attempts at reform. They're part of a comprehensive reform to technical education that encompasses reforms to apprenticeships, the National Retraining Scheme, and investment in the sector to make sure that there is the right range of provision at different levels. We want T-levels to be part of a long-term solution, and we've worked really hard on developing these in partnership with employers so that they genuinely meet the needs of employers when they're looking to recruit into skilled technical positions. Rather than just adding T-levels into the mix, we're also committed to simplifying the qualifications landscape to make the offer clearer to young people and to employers, so that T-levels become the national technical qualification in the same way that A-levels are easily recognisable on the academic side. We've also worked really hard to make sure that the purpose of T-levels is absolutely clear. So we're not attempting to achieve multiple goals across vocational academic education. This is very much aimed at young people developing the knowledge, skills and behaviours that they need in order to succeed in their chosen area of skilled technical work. And we've looked really carefully at the world's best technical education systems to see what we can learn. And that has helped us to shape a programme based on much longer hours than other qualifications, so we can give young people more input, a meaningful industrial placement, and including English, math and digital content. This slide sets out the overall shape of the T-level programme. The technical qualification is the substantive element of the programme which is taught in the provider setting. It's made up of a core, which will be 20 to 50% of the total technical qualification time, and that will focus on the knowledge and understanding that underpins the principle in the relevant T-level. And that will be assessed through an external examination and a substantial employer set project. Each technical qualification also includes an occupational specialism, and that really gets into the detailed skills and knowledge and behaviours in order to be able to do a skilled job. So if you're doing a digital T-level, to actually be able to do the software development activities that are needed in those jobs. Each T-level includes a mandatory industry placement, a minimum of 45 days, and this should be relevant to the T-level programme that they're taking and external to the provider setting. So it's a real chance for young people to develop and test their skills that they've been learning in college in the workplace. Each T-level also has a maths and English exit requirement, and students are expected to achieve a level 2 in maths and English, either through a GCSE or a level 2 functional skills. The T-level can also include other requirements as set by the T-level panel, and that can include things like health and safety certificates or food hygiene certificates and things that a young person will need in order to make a successful transition into the workplace once they've completed their T-level programme. One of the key ways that we've sought to put employers in the driving seat of developing T-levels is through the T-level panels that we have recruited and which are currently developing the outline content for the 25 different T-level subjects which are in development. T-level panels are made up of employers, professional bodies and providers, and they are currently managed by the Institute for Apprenticeships and Technical Education. It's the panel's job to set out the knowledge, skills and behaviours that are required in order to do a skilled job in their relevant industries. And we've been working now for over a year with some of the panels. We recently recruited the panels for the later waves of T-levels. So around 300 employers in total, working with education advisors, working with experts from the Institute to develop the outline content for those courses. Once the content has been developed, it's approved by the panels at the Institute for Apprenticeships. And then that content forms a really important part of the procurement exercise that we or the Institute will run in order to select the awarding organisation or exam body who will turn this outline content into the qualification. and we are at various stages of those procurements depending on the subject. The outline content for the first 3 T-levels, which will be delivered from 2020 onwards, we've already had the procurement out to find an awarding organisation for those, and are due to announce the outcome of that fairly shortly. One of the key differences with the T-level approach has been that we're selecting a single awarding organisation for each of the T-levels, rather than having multiple awarding organisations, each able to develop their own T-level offer, and adding to that sense of complexity and confusion in the qualifications landscape. We've put external input and consultation at the heart of our approach to identifying an awarding organisation to work with us to develop T-levels, and we hope to make the announcement of the first awarding organisations sometime in the next sort of 4 to 6 weeks or so, which is a really key milestone for us on the way to September 2020. One of the key things which is different about T-levels compared to other vocational education is the industry placement. As I said in the introduction, industry placements, a meaningful placement for a young person in their relevant field, is one of the key things which marks out successful international technical education systems. It's one of the biggest challenges that we have in terms of delivering T-levels, but it's also one of the biggest opportunities to genuinely make T-levels different to current provision and to step up to the level that is delivering the best results internationally. We have been building up our evidence base and piloting T-level style placements with providers since 2017. We ran a 2017 to 18 pilot with 21 providers involving over 2,000 students. And that for us was incredibly helpful in terms of helping to identify best practice, to identify some of the barriers and opportunities that we needed to work through in order to make the industry placement model work at scale. One of the key things that we recognise is that one size is not going to fit all when it comes to industry placements, and that we're going to need to flex our models and flex the support available between different routes and pathways. The pilot found that getting the messaging right to employers was really critical, and in particular being as clear with employers about the benefits that having an industry placement student can offer. We're seeing a range of different businesses wanting to get involved in offering industry placements. It won't be for every single business, not everyone will want to be involved, but we are finding good appetite from a really wide range of businesses, large and small, to have an industry placement student come in. They can see the benefits of building that talent pipeline for the future, investing in young people in their local area, and working with local colleges and other providers to develop that pipeline. In light of the scale of the challenge and recognising that a 3-month placement is quite significantly different to the current couple of weeks of experience that many young people have, we have allocated 60 million to providers this year, so in 18-19, and that will continue into next year to help them to establish the infrastructure and resources that they need in order to deliver industry placements. We're also putting in place support for those providers that need a bit of extra support, a bit of extra hand-holding, working in partnership with the AOC and the Challenge to deliver that. We've also invested 5 million into the National Apprenticeship Service to expand their remit so that they can raise awareness and promote industry placements with employers. And we've published lots of guidance which is available for both providers and employers. And that's something that we'll continue to do and continue to refine as we get more experienced and more best practice emerging. For 2020 delivery, we're starting relatively small, and we ran a selection process last year in order to identify a group of 50 providers who will be teaching the first T-levels from September 2020. We very consciously wanted to start with a small number that we could support and get to know as we plan for implementation, to make sure that we get the teaching of T-levels off to a really good start. Providers were selected through an expression of interest process, and they had to meet a series of quality criteria in order to be considered. We've now been working with them since the summer, so they're attending regular workshops, feeding into policy. We've been out to visit all of the providers that are involved to talk through any concerns that they have and to work with them on their detailed planning for implementation. Beyond 2020, we've also now launched the expression of interest process for 2021 delivery, when we're looking to add additional providers to our mix of 2020 providers. We're aiming to select around another 50 to 75 providers for 2021. And we've set out the detailed criteria and application process for that in the last couple of weeks. We recognise, as well as all of our other implementation planning, that getting the support for teachers and leaders across the FE sector is really critical to make sure that T-levels get off on a good start. So we're investing 20 million over this 2 years to March 2020 to support providers as they prepare for the introduction of T-levels. In particular, we've announced an £8 million T-level professional development programme, which is being delivered by the Education and Training Foundation, to help staff prepare for the change and successfully deliver the first T-levels. This offer includes a development needs analysis, introductions to what T-levels are and how they're different from current vocational programmes, teacher development programme, preparing the organisational readiness, and the development of a network of knowledge hubs in different areas, and that's being rolled out from this spring. T-level rollout will be backed by an additional 500 million per year once they're fully rolled out, and we're currently consulting on exactly the mechanisms that we use in order to distribute that funding. This includes quite a lot of detail on the funding rates, the different approaches that we're taking to uplifting funding for different students with different needs. That consultation is open until the 18th of February, so please do take a look and feed in views if that's something that you would like to comment on. We've also announced a £38 million capital fund to support the initial rollout of T-levels from September 2020, and last week we set out further details about how 2020 providers can apply to improve the quality of their facilities and equipment to support that, that really high quality rollout. On the 6th of December, we published an action plan which set out a bit more detail about some of the things that I've highlighted today, and also announced some further areas of clarification around bits of policy where we've been continuing to work through some of the details, including, for example, the arrangements around grading and confirmation that UCAS will allocate points for T-levels in line with 3 A-levels. Finally, I wanted to say a little bit about communications, because we recognise that communications and engagement is a key part of our approach to successfully delivering T-levels. And webinars like today are one strand of our communication and engagement work, particularly focused on raising awareness of T-levels, what they are, where they can lead, and how they fit in with other post-16 choices. We're currently in phase 1 of what is a fairly medium-term communications and engagement plan. We have quite an ambitious plan to develop a fully fledged marketing campaign and brand for T-levels, and that work is underway at the moment. And to scale that up over time, so there's a real balance that we're trying to strike in terms of building awareness early enough for T-levels, but recognising that with a provider-focused rollout strategy that they won't all be available in all areas for quite a number of years, as we carefully select and support providers to gradually increase their T-level offer. There's a whole range of audiences for our communications plan, so clearly young people and their parents are crucial, but we recognise that the wider teaching workforce, careers advisors, careers leaders in schools are really critical part of those influencing factors for young people, as well as that broader engagement across the sector. As well as the introduction of T-levels, there are a number of other critical programs which are underway and which we are particularly closely linked into. One of the things I would flag is the work we're doing to develop a transition offer for young people who aren't yet ready to start a T-level at 16, but might be, with another year or so support, some extra maths and English, be in a position to start that and realistically achieve it by age 19. And so we're working with our 2020 and in future 2021 providers to think about what success looks like in terms of supporting young people to make a successful start on a stretching level 3 programme. We've also committed to carrying out a review of post-16 qualifications at level 3 and below. And the aim here is to simplify the current landscape so that all qualifications that are available and funded for young people have a really clear purpose, a good quality, and support progression to good outcomes. This is a really significant review and one that we know will inspire a whole range of questions and a whole range of strong views. We've committed to consulting extensively before any decisions are made, and the first stage of that consultation is due to kick off in the next few weeks. So do keep a lookout for that if you are particularly interested in different qualifications in this space, or if you want to make your views known. We're also thinking very carefully about progression from T-levels. So when a young person completes their T-level, our expectation is that for a good number of them, the next step will be into skilled work, but that could also include an apprenticeship at level 4 or 5, or other training at level 4 and 5. And one of the key things government is keen to support is to expand the quality and the provision at level 4 and 5. And so we'll be consulting more on that this year as well. And as part of all of this, we need to make sure that careers leaders and career professionals are equipped to give young people advice and guidance on T-levels. And that's a key part of the reason for doing this webinar and other ways of engaging with career professionals. So to sum up, in terms of next steps, 2019 is quite a busy year for us on T-levels. And so we're continuing to work really closely with our 2020 providers to test and shape the T-level programme and ensure that they have got really good support and so that they're ready for first teaching in September 2020. We'll also be selecting those providers who'll be offering T-levels in 2021, and we'll be announcing those in the spring. We're also ramping up our communications effort, and I'm really excited about introducing the formal T-level brand later in the spring as well, and ramping that up over the next 12 months or so as we really start to generate interest in T-levels from our core audiences. I've already mentioned we'll be announcing the outcome of our recent procurement process in the next few weeks, and we'll also be launching our next phase of procurement to select awarding organisations for the T-levels which will be offered in 2021. And we're continuing to implement the extensive programme of support for industry placements as we work with providers and employers to engage them and to support them to start delivering industry placements in the style of T-levels. So that's the end of my slide set, and I'm very happy to take any questions.
Hello again. We've had one question. Will there be any flexibility in maths and English exit requirements for those with SEN?
Yes, there will be, and we announced the detail of that in our action plan. So I can't remember the exact details of the flexibilities, but it aligns with the flexibilities that are available for SEN students on apprenticeships.
Okay. I've had another question. Is there any plan to offer lower level technical qualifications for those young people that are not going to be able to work towards level 3 regardless of how much support is offered.
Can I just clarify that that question relates to post-16 provision?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So there's clearly a really wide range of current qualifications at level 3, level 2, and below offered in these subjects, and the exact mix of qualifications going forward will be determined through the qualifications review. But we do recognise that there's an awful lot of young people that are taking courses at level 1 and 2 in many of these subjects, and that we need to make sure that there's appropriate provision going forward for young people for whom level 3 isn't a realistic prospect.
Okay. If anybody else has any questions, just pop them in the questions bar and we'll get you an answer. As I said, this webinar is being recorded and will be sent out to everyone a little later today. So I'll give them just a minute or two. We don't seem to have any more questions.
Okay.
If anybody has any questions later on that come to you, just email them over to me and I'll get them sent right over to Sue. But if we've not got any more, I'll end it here. So yes, thank you, Sue.
Great, thank you very much for listening.
If anybody has any questions later, as I said, just get in touch. Thank you, and we hope to see you all again soon.
Great, thank you very much. Bye.